everybody. Today I'm going to talk about the verdict in the extreme skier case and update you on the other trials. So having a nice walk with the dogs. If you want to see the animals, the dogs and the cat, watch till the end. Stay tuned. Hi, good morning, everybody. Crafting Journey here. That Journey Chick over on Instagram and on my second YouTube channel, The Leftovers. The link to that channel is down in the description. Welcome to another edition of Crafting and Crime Daily, the show where I recap live trials that are being covered by either Court TV, Long Crime Network, some other local channel, all three, or none. Anyway, a lot to cover, a lot to get to today. The day after the elections. Does that mean all the commercials are going away? Yes. And you're like, are you still watching regular TV? Yeah. So I put my cable subscription down to the bare minimum. Bare minimum. Not really realizing that's what I did, but that's what I did. And so I still have the best internet. So we do watch the local news, and my sister watches some of the local, the NBC shows on, all the Chicago shows, Fire, EMT, whatever, all those, I don't know, the Chicago shows. So, we were seeing commercials. Anyway. And political signs everywhere. I went over that yesterday. So that will all die down now. Now they're going to ramp up for the presidential election in 2024. Yeah, that should be loads of fun. Okay. So the first case that we're going to talk about today is the extreme skier Dean Cummings. That case wrapped up. It lasted all of a week, and it did wrap up. The closing arguments were yesterday, and just to tell you a little bit about the closing arguments, some points that were raised. First of all, let me just say I don't think the prosecutors did a fantastic job here. I think they did the best they could with what they had to work with from law enforcement. And the, I guess, lack of thorough investigation. So one of the things pointed out by the defense that I found very interesting is, what would have been Dean Cummings' motive to kill Guillermo Arellano. Now, this was a gentleman that he was actually roommates with. He was living out on this ranch owned by Guillermo Arellano. Ooh, I rolled my R's. And so they could work out this land deal. Arellano was selling it to Cummings, Dean Cummings, the former famous skier. And he had said, you could live out here while you get to know the property. So that's what was transpiring. And so he was living out there. I'm going to put the light pad on so I can see what I am doing. So which one do I want to use? I've got all these pens. So what would have been his motive to kill Guillermo Arellano? If he killed him, the land deal goes away. So why would he kill him? Now, that got me to thinking, well, okay. And then also, if you set out to shoot someone, do you deliberately put 2 gunshots into the floor? That would make it. Why would you do that? Why would you stop and turn the gun upside down and shoot 2 shots into the floor. I don't know. And he doesn't attempt to flee the crime scene. He goes, he gets somebody, brings them back, shows them what happens, they call 911, and he maintains all along, I was defending myself. And he never wavers in his testimony. Dean Cummings never wavers. Now, the prosecution comes back on, their final closing arguments and they point out, they hold up this little tiny canister of mace, and they're like, this is what he was afraid of. This is what he was reacting to with an AR-15, this little can of mace. And their argument was that there was no evidence that he was ever actually really sprayed with the can of mace. His eyes were not red, but understandably, Dean washed his eyes out, washed his face to get the chemical agent off of him, took his clothes off, which were never tested. He asked the police, please test those for this agent. They never tested the clothes. And I don't know where I was going with this. I'm still suffering from lack of sleep. In any case, he could have been sprayed by the mace. It was hours before the police got there after the event occurred, because they were in a very remote location. So, interesting development, though, right before this goes to the jury to deliberate, some of the charges are dropped by the prosecutor. Now, originally, Dean Cummings had been charged with second-degree murder, which is not intentional homicide, and or manslaughter, voluntary manslaughter. So which is a lesser included offense of second-degree murder. Also charged with concealing his identity, and he was also charged with tampering with evidence. The concealing identity goes away. Now, the jury had been told about all these charges. Well, the concealing his identity goes away. The tampering with evidence goes away. Yep. No charges for that. Interesting, huh? So the jury only has to decide, was this self-defense? Is he guilty of second-degree murder? Is he guilty of voluntary manslaughter? Or is he guilty of nothing because it was self-defense? So the jury is brought into the courtroom to deliberate, because apparently their jury room is very small and only has one bathroom. So the judge said, I'm going to clear the courtroom. When we come back from lunch, I'm going to clear the courtroom, and everyone will be held out by the bailiffs, and the jury is going to sit in the courtroom and deliberate. So that began about 3 o'clock my time, 2 o'clock Mountain Time, where in New Mexico, where this trial is taking place. And the jury comes back about, it was 3 o'clock Mountain Time, about 4 o'clock my time that they start deliberating. And so I'm waiting for the verdict, waiting for, to see if they come back with a verdict today. And I'm thinking, no, it's too soon. So about 6:30 my time, which would be 5:30 their time, I shut it off, because I'm thinking, well, the judge had told them they could go home early, because, he wanted to allow them a chance to go vote. It's election day. But they continued to deliberate. So about 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 p.m. my time, unbeknownst to me, I'm already past that. I'm on the phone with my friends, chit-chatting, playing on Instagram, and they have a verdict. So I watched the verdict after I got done with my phone call, I looked on YouTube and I see that there had been a verdict just minutes before I found it. So I rewound it, and here is the verdict.
I understand that I understand the jury has reached a verdict. First of all, I need to know who the foreperson is. If you could state his or her name. And did the jury in fact reach a verdict? Can you hand the verdict forms to my bailiff? Mr. Cummings, please rise. The verdict read as follows. We find the defendant, Dean Cummings, not guilty of second-degree murder, is charged in count 1 of the grand jury indictment. Verdict number 2. We find the defendant, Dean Cummings, not guilty of voluntary manslaughter, a lesser crime of count 1 of the grand jury indictment. And Mr. Cummings, you've been found not guilty of these charges. You're exonerated of all conditions of the court. What I want to do right now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is I need for you to follow my bailiff out this door, and I'll meet with you in courtroom C for a few minutes. Go out with her through, follow her that way, not through, I don't want to.
Keep them there because I need to get them.
Okay.
Interesting. I mean, like, he has the guy stand and he just reads the verdict. Like, there was like no preliminary, like no verbiage, just not guilty. And that was it. Very anticlimactic, but like no video reactions, no. Although you do hear a woman sobbing, which I'm assuming is a family member of Guillermo Arellano. No, I didn't roll the R's that time. Oh, goodness. Okay. I felt bad for her. I really did. But, you know, it's going through these trials is just heartbreaking for the victims, you know, just heartbreaking. So that is how that is. So, I just found it interesting that, like I said, the jury never knew about Dean Cummings' mental illness, which now appears to have subsided. He's probably being medicated properly. And now the only question is, will he go seek out his wife and child, who was trying to get away from him because of his craziness? So anyway, so that's the end of that story. Now, moving on to the new trial that started Monday. What is today? Wednesday. Oh my God, where is the week going? I'm like, lack of sleep. Yes. This is, I'm going to call it the math teacher murder, because this is the woman that was fleeing her boyfriend, Matthew Terry. This is Kay Parker. She was fleeing her boyfriend. And this is the prosecution's theory of the case. She was fleeing her boyfriend, who had been accusing her of dancing with another man, and stabbed her repeatedly with a knife, a paring knife that was never found. Yet no weapon was ever found, and kills her, nearly decapitating her. So yesterday in the courtroom, they began with body cam footage that showed the canine officer who had the bloodhound. And this bloodhound, oh my God, so cute. Just adorable, this bloodhound. So he explained what a bloodhound does, and and then you get to see this body cam footage of him putting the bloodhound going to seek out, follow this small trail of blood that ends up to be a kind of a larger pool of blood. But by that time, and then the next witness we have is the guy operating the camera on a helicopter or a plane. I don't know if it was a plane or a helicopter. It must have been a helicopter. Anyway, he said, I'm not flying the plane. I'm operating this camera that is really activated by heat. It picks up heat. And so we got to see that footage as well, where you see the dog, but you simultaneously you see a man and somebody running in the woods, like he's only like 40 feet from where the dog is. So once the canine handler comes upon the blood of the dog comes upon that larger pool of blood, he pulls him off. He says, this dog is not trained to apprehend anyone. He's just trained to track, versus a regular canine dog that actually will apprehend. Like they'll attack whoever they're going after and try to apprehend them. This dog's not trained for that, and he didn't want the dog to get hurt, so he pulls him off, and they bring out a regular canine officer with a regular canine dog, and the plane operator describes to them where this heat sensor is picking up this motion in the trees, and it's very close to where they're actually at by about 40 feet, and you can hear him saying it's over to the right, and you can see the heat sensor, and you can see this heat element going through the woods. And then we have body cam footage of Matthew Terry actually being apprehended. He's wearing a dark shirt, no pants, just his underwear. And it's very dark, but I mean, you could see him because of the flashlights and the body cam lights. And I didn't see any blood, but probably because it was so dark. I don't know. And he's not like resisting or anything, so they apprehend him. The next witness that we hear from is Kay Baker's best friend. This is the woman who is at the bar with Kay Baker, at the landing with Kay Baker and Matthew Terry. This woman and her husband. And then there was another couple there for a period of time as well. And so for the next period of time, we get to see, they walk us through footage of these people at the bar, this landing. It apparently has an indoor area. It has a patio area. They're out on the patio area, and they're having drinks, and they do show Kay Baker getting up and going to the bathroom. And then they show Matthew Terry. He gets up and he goes to the bathroom, which is, they have to leave the patio area and go into the dining area, which is picked up by a different camera. So they switched it over to the different camera, and we see her coming, going to the bathroom. Then she's coming out of the bathroom. As she's coming out, her best friend is walking towards the bathroom, and they stop to greet each other, and they're just chit-chatting and hugging each other, and kind of, playfully, at one point they're playfully kind of dancing. And this, at that point in time, this guy is walking by them, total stranger, walking and trying to get past them to go to the bathroom. And he just kind of skirts past the two women, And I'm going to show you that right now. Here it is.
That's Tara's husband?
Yes.
Okay. So you're in peach, Matt is in green, your husband Sean is in blue, Kay's in red, and Tara's in black. Is that correct?
Correct.
It's very brief, right? So, I mean, like, that was it. That was it. And they argue about this for the rest of the night. So her best friend just details how the argument kept going, and she kept telling Matthew, hey, you're just being jealous. You need to stop. It was nothing. And well, here's what's interesting, though. They stayed at that bar. Matthew, Terry, and Kay Baker stay at the Landing. They had to leave a little bit after 11:30. And then the woman that was testifying, her best friend, stays at the bar with her husband because they had called an Uber to pick them up. So they're waiting for their Uber. And you can actually see her on the surveillance footage. You can see the witness's phone lighting up. And she said it was Kay Baker calling her from their vehicle, and she had put her on speaker, and so Matthew could hear her. And again, she says, hey, he's bringing up this dancing with another guy again. Just tell him, that it was nothing. And so she tells him, again, hey, you're just being jealous. Stop it. So he's like, yeah, and on cross-examination, she does admit, he wasn't raising his voice. He was not being violent with her. He just said, okay. That's the two things he said. And then she gets, just before midnight, she gets a text from her friend. And we see the text message, and she said, I'm so sorry for all of that nonsense, and everything's fine now. Then the next text you see is at 9:30 next morning, when her best friend is trying to figure out what happened. Like, hey, I heard something happen near your house. Call me as soon as you get this message. Well, she never talks to her friend again, because she is found like 30 minutes later, deceased on someone's front lawn. So sad. So I did a little digging into this case because I thought something's going on that we don't know about. And I was right. So, and the jury will not know this, but I just want you guys to know how our justice system works with this case. And so the first thing has to do with Ron DeSantis. I wasn't going to get into any politics today. Ron DeSantis is the governor of Florida. After yesterday, he won a re-election. He will continue to be the governor of Florida until, and I say until, well, we'll see what happens there. But here's what's expected to happen with DeSantis. He is expected to challenge Trump for the Republican nomination for the presidency. So DeSantis is this, Hispanic. His wife is Hispanic. I don't think he's Hispanic, but he's very tight-knit with the Hispanic community in Florida. Very much a family man, very much a Republican, and very much for the death penalty. But following the Nicholas Cruz case. Now, I don't want you guys to get confused. Please don't get confused. I'm still talking about the woman that was the trial where Matthew Terry followed Kay Baker out. We're not going to go too far from there, but I just want you to know that DeSantis had made statements following the Nicholas Cruz case that he was going to reinstate the death penalty in Florida to be, instead of being that everyone has to decide the death penalty, he's just going to make it a simple majority. Because as we know in Nicholas Cruz's case, 3 people opted to not vote for the death penalty, so he didn't get the death penalty. So this was supposed to be a death penalty case, but this case, Kay Baker, Matthew Terry, was supposed to be a death penalty case. That was on the table for Matthew Terry. Andrew Warren, a Democrat who was the state attorney, decided he wasn't going to prosecute him under the death penalty. Not going to do it. So DeSantis gets upset and suspends him and appoints a county court judge, Susan Lopez, who immediately puts the death penalty back on the table. I just think that's a very, very interesting detail here. Then the other thing that I found, oh my God, this one's even worse. This guy had a prior conviction. In 2017, up in Michigan, he had been tried for attempted murder of his girlfriend, whom he bludgeoned, stabbed, and punched in the face several times. She spent 5 days in an intensive care unit. It goes to trial. He pleads not guilty. He's an ex-Marine. He goes to trial. He's all clean cut, just same as he is now, all clean cut. He has a very resilient victim. She survives, so it's only attempted murder. And apparently a very sympathetic jury, because they come back with a not guilty on attempted murder and guilty of great bodily harm. I don't know what his sentence entailed as far as incarceration, probably time served, I would expect. But he is, it's supposed to be followed by a year's parole, 1 year of parole. So the lead prosecutor in Michigan writes to the parole board and says, listen, this guy has a long history of multiple alcohol related offenses and multiple assaultive offenses against women. He needs to be under stricter supervision while on patrol, and it needs to be for 2 years. He needs to have no contact with the victim, and several other stricter regulations for this guy. The parole board says, nah, just 1 year parole. That's in 2020, 1 year parole. So what do you think happens? Yeah. We end up in the boat we're in now, where he moves to Florida. He's having this relationship with Kay Baker, and lo and behold, the same thing happens. Now, I'm sure the jury will never know this, but gosh darn it, what is going on? Holy moly. This guy is super violent. At first, this whole death penalty thing, I'm thinking, because I haven't really decided, am I for the death penalty? Am I not for the death penalty? I don't know. But this guy gets away with attempted murder, basically, and murders another victim. Wow. Just, wow. How are we doing on time? Okay. So that's the show for today. I've got some animal footage here for you at the end. I hope you guys enjoy. Yeah, tonight at 6 p.m. Central, I'm going to have a guest on my live at Diamond Painting with Donnie. We're going to find out what she's up to. One of the original diamond painting channels on YouTube. I love Donnie. I really do. Come watch at 6 p.m. Central. We'll find out what she's been up to. You're going to love it. Yeah, same thing as me. Miniatures. Yeah. We'll see how she likes it. Yep. So, yeah, just come and chit-chat with us. Yep. So, more on the Wagner case tomorrow. Today was all about a hearing over evidence. So, the evidence the judge ruled on the evidence, and we're going to hear today what all that evidence is. It's all wiretap stuff. So, guys, have a great Wednesday. I hope to see you tonight. If I don't, I'll see you tomorrow in Crafting and Crime Daily. Bye, everybody.